On Weekly Press Review, your number one wrap-up analysis program live on GTV and also on GBC News. We are also streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Sani, Rahman. Soon I'll be introducing my guest for today's important conversation. But in the meantime, let me run you by some of the stories that were captured in the papers. Of course, in the front pages, stories that were given prominence in the course of the week to help you appreciate the major headlines in the course of the week before we start with the conversation. What are we starting with? I have in front of me the Daily Graphic, Wednesday edition. It talks about the reserve issue, of course, the dominant issue in the course of the explaining government position. Of course, we are glad to have also in the studio a former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. In 2013, he was in office when more or less the conversation was finalized at a point in time. There have been further conversations, but we try to unpack all that to help you appreciate what has been happening regarding the Achimota Forest Reserve since the emergence of the issue. Let me start with today's edition of the Daily Graphic. It leads with Achimota Forest intact, Jinapo Ashios Nation, and peripheries revert to Owu family. The producer chooses to start with Thursday edition of the Daily Graphic. It leads with deepening trade within Africa. President Akufo-Addo challenges business leaders and also former Public Procurement Authority board charged for procurement breaches. This has been welcomed in the civil society and the anti-corruption fight front. We are waiting to see how this will pan out in courts. In Kranza, disturbances, 1 dead, 8 injured. And that will, of course, that will be our lead topic for conversation in today's edition of the program. There is also a special supplement on automobile industry. Ghana is gradually becoming a giant in the industry as we see some global automobile companies setting up their assembly plants in the country. Procurement breaches, 150 offenders face prosecution, and that's according to the Public Accounts Committee. It referred them to the Attorney General for trial. It has the picture of Mr. Veji, who is the chairman of the committee. Court orders prosecution witness to produce data from electronic devices. That's also a story on page 3. If you want to read more, grab a copy. President Akufo-Addo expresses concern over Russia-Ukraine war impact on food security. In fact, the African Development Bank is rolling out a $1.5 billion scheme to help reduce the impact of the war on food. The impact on food. We are seeing food prices going up astronomically, and the AFDB is looking to alleviate this effects on the African citizen and also prevent a looming food crisis in the region. Togo opens border. That's good news for those engaged in cross-border trading. Punish developer for pulling down Bulgarian embassy building, and that's according to the committee that's made an inquiry into the matter. There have been discussions yesterday on the matter. If time permits, we look through and help appreciate issues surrounding that. What nearly caused a diplomatic row between us and the Bulgarians. Achimota Forest intact, Jinapo Nation, peripheries revert to Owu family. I will interrogate that, the legality of the whole conversation. Of course, we have two prominent lawyers in the studio today to help us with the conversation. And also, NACOC seizes drugs at Kotoka International Airport. That story is on page 21 of the paper. The Ghanaian Times Wednesday edition led with Ghana home to 476,400 migrants. The International Organization for Migration declares and says country now origin transit destination for migrants. Quite a worrying development, and we need to ensure that our frontiers are properly beefed up in terms of security to protect the country and also prevent the inflows, of course, in the context of security threats in the Sahel it is important that the state takes steps to ensure that such occurrence is reduced. Achimota Forest not sold. Abu Jinapur dismisses claim. Of course, this story would be found in almost all the front pages of the papers. Nkranza youth attack police, and also that story is in the Ghanaian Times edition, Wednesday edition. You want to read more, grab a copy of the paper, and you can as well listen to the program because we'll be delving deep into that. Get Fund tackles stalled projects, 1,044 to be completed in 3 years. Quite some good news for the players in the education sector. If projects are to be completed, it's going to help increase enrollment and also for the human resource and capital of the country as we seek to industrialize the economy. Support graphic tertiary business sense challenge. The education minister urges public, and that story is fully captured on page 16 of the paper. No kerosene shortage. Tema oil refinery assures the public, but users complain of scarcity, and that story is also found of the paper. There is also a story regarding the food issues in the schools. TVET enrolls record 44,000 students, nearly double last year's intake nationwide, and that story is fully captured page 16 of Tuesday's edition, Ghanaian Times. Muhammad declares intention to lead NDC in election 2024. Quite some good news for his supporters in the party. Bad news for those who want to attend. The boss and others who want to also run to lead the NDC in 2024 election. We are waiting to see how this will pan out. Court remands alleged girlfriend killer. That story is page 8 of the paper. Security analysts advocate increase of resources to ensure that security agencies are well resourced. Parks and Gardens beautifies roads. Exercise extends to MMDAs, and that's some good news to beautify the environment. If you go to some countries, you find the median on highways being beautified and stuff. We are emulating that. Let's support Ghana Cote d'Ivoire Cocoa Initiative. Cocoa Board boss lobbies African countries, and that story is fully captured on page 15 of the Ghanaian Times. President calls on investors, entrepreneurs to spearhead growth development in West Africa, and that story is also on page 14 of the paper. Government remains committed to protecting Achimota Forest, and that's according to Benito Usubio, the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, to this edition of the Ghanaian Times. Producer, let's open the conversation. In the course of it, we will raise any headline that's may feature in the conversation in the studio here. Let me introduce my guests in the studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen. On my immediate left, I have the Honorable Appiah Kubi, who is a Member of Parliament for Asante Akim North. Honorable, thank you so much for coming. And just after him is the Honorable Inusah, Sani, former Member of Parliament, Tamale Central. Laji, glad to have you in the studio today.
Thank you.
And Honorable, it appears it's our first time having your good self in the studio.
On your platform?
Yes.
You hosting?
Yes.
I've been here many times.
Many times.
With the platform host different.
Yes.
But today we are here. And unfortunately, I'm here with my minister that I adore so much. And well, it's going to be a very friendly debate.
We hope so. Well, some portions of the Achimota Forest in Accra in the southern periphery close to the N1 highway handed over to the pre-acquisition owners of the land, the Owu family, in 2013 is no longer a forest reserve. It follows the coming into force of the executive instrument EI 144 gazetted on behalf of President Akufo-Addo last month by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapur. The leasing and declassification of portions of the forest reserve has attracted mixed reactions, with some environmental campaigners raising questions about the state's commitment towards protecting forest ecosystem. Also, the acreage released to the Owu family has come under scrutiny. The minority in Parliament pretended the deal argues that the approved acreage was in excess of 100 acres and not the 361 that has been gazetted. Responding to the claim, the lands minister said at a press briefing the acreage returned to the family was determined by the Afaridate committee during the Eswal Muhammad administration, and they just implemented it. According to him, his outfits simply approved what had been done by the previous government and did not alter any of the recommendation in there. We try to find more answers for you on today's edition of the program. Thankfully, we have the Honorable Inusah Fuseini in the studio for the discussion. Mr. Fuseini is a former member of parliament for Tamale Central, and he was the Lands and Natural Resources Minister in 2013 when the portion of the Achimota Forest Reserve was returned to the OU family. Also in the studio is the Honorable Kwame Appiah Kubi, Member of Parliament for Akim North. Property law experts and of course a practicing lawyer help us to appreciate the position of government on this issue. Thank you so much, gentlemen, once again. Let me start with you, Mr. Fuseini. What were the considerations that informed the return of the portions of the OU of the Achimota Forest Reserve to the OU family in 2013? I know the discussion started somewhere in 2007.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you.
Minister, with all due respect to you, I would suggest that maybe you start from the position of the law in respect of acquired lands, and then you can develop your next question from there. So we will start properly from within the law.
It's part of the synopsis, especially when it comes to you. Your party is in government. You're a property lawyer also. So
we have the benefit of his knowledge. Let's take advantage of it.
I'm sure we can come into that later.
You can
but I just think that, first of all, I need to say good morning to you. And my former president, the SRC president of the University of Ghana, and the Appiah Kubi. In fact, he is the one I can say meaning with fraternity. I mean, properly speaking, because he entered the university at the same time.
Yes.
And
we ended up in the same hall.
In the same hall. And
you ended up as lawyers. Ended up in parliament.
Yes. So yes. Now, and again, to say that your question, you are starting your question from the middle.
Yes.
So let's go back to the historical antecedents of the Achimota Forest. The Achimota Forest was acquired in 1921 and 1927 by an act of the British colonial government. Now, that acquisition was pursuant to the payment of compensation as existing there. These are the whole principles. We call them whole principles. Prompt, fair, and adequate compensation. Now, in 1921, this first portion of the land was acquired for the establishment of the Achimota School. Subsequently, it was realized that you needed firewood to cook food to feed the students. So the British colonial administration also went in for another swat of land for the purposes of turning it into a place where you could harvest firewood for the school. And so that was a 1927 acquisition. Now, so the lands were acquired from the OU family. And we need to state it clearly because I now hear rival claimants to the forest. In 1921, 1927, the land was acquired from the OU family. Now, the fast forward to 2000, when won the elections and constituted government in 2001. President Kufuor's government had conceived of an idea that because the Accra Central Business District was congested, it was important that we decongest the business district. So in Kufuor's administration's policy, the Achimota Forest was a prime area, an area where you could move or set up another business district, the second business district in Accra. Okay, so when this government conceived the idea, the OU family then petitioned him, since he was going to turn the forest into another use, to release part of the land to them. Now, so because of the petition, a committee was established, and which resulted or culminated in a memorandum of understanding between the OU family and the MPP government under Kufuor for the release of 193 acres of land. Now, but the memorandum of understanding was signed somewhere in August 2008. So the government did not have the benefit of implementing that MOU and left office. So NDC takes over. Now in 2008 elections, yes, the issue of land was central to the campaign. You remember? The International Students Hostel, the Foreign Affairs Ministry, the Cantonment's Hotel, the acquisition of property by Jake Obichivilamti and others.
The legal issues.
The legal issues surrounding.
In the political.
In the political. In the fact that even President Kufuor had decided that 193 acres should be. They were all political issues and land issues. So, His Excellency late President John G. Mills put an embargo on land. So no one was to alienate land, no one was to deal with land. They ordered the reversal of the International Student Hostel lands and other lands. Now, so the Minister of Foreign Affairs land was banned. That's why it's still Minister of Foreign Affairs, even though the bent out property is still standing there. Then 2012, NDC said that in the NDC manifesto that the Achimota forest was to be turned into an ecotourism facility. The decision was informed by the fact that Achimota forest currently is the lungs of Accra. It's a carbon sink. So all of us, when we breathe, Achimota forest is responsible for cleaning the atmosphere. It's also a biodiversity area. When you get into the forest, you see butterflies, you see lizards, you see snakes that probably you don't see anywhere. Now, there is an arboretum. Arboretum is a collection of trees of different species that you cannot see presently because we've cut down the trees. Now, so, and in the whole of Accra, there is no area that you can go and sit down and relax. The nature of the Ibri gardens. There's nothing like that. Probably what comes closer to it is where we used to go to Legon Gardens.
Legon Gardens.
There's no
behind political science.
Behind political science. There's no such area. So NDC thought, look, let's convert it into an ecotourism facility and call it Achimota. Now, so when we also came up with the idea, the Owu family resurfaced. I said, well, we had put in, there was this memorandum of understanding, 193, and so if we are going to convert it, can you honor the memorandum of understanding? Then we said, no, we were not going to give 193. We said, well, and then we were not going to give you in lieu of compensation. Because documents available to us then suggested that compensation had been paid. And we saw a document evidencing £4,000 payment in 1921-27, between 1921-27. So we saw that document. And so we said, well, because of the tremendous sacrifice that your family made in releasing your land for the purposes of establishing a school, and further releasing another land for the purpose of establishing a woodlot, Ghana has benefited tremendously from the sacrifice that you have made. In 1921-1927, your family was small. There was no pressure settling family members. And you know the land law and the right of family members to family land. But today your family is big. So you might need to settle your family. So we are prepared to scale down what Kufuor offered you, 193 to 118 on compassionate grounds. We're just acknowledging that you made tremendous sacrifices to the state. The state is still benefiting from your efforts, but we are meeting you on compassionate grounds. So the letter I wrote to Owu family, the letter I wrote to Forestry Commission, the lease agreement that was entered into, the head lease of that was entered into between the Owu family and Forestry Commission, actually in the second recital, recited that we were releasing the 118 to them on the basis of compassion. So NDC released 118. And subsequently, the Forest Commission entered into discussions with developers and settled on a South African developer to turn the the Edgewater Forest into an eco park, the Akim capital, to 1.2 billion. Now, when MPP came, they stopped it. They didn't believe in the idea of eco park. Now, I have said that because we had granted them the land and they had taken possession, they actually registered the land in their name at the Lands Commission. It has got a land title certificate. They actually even transferred title in the land to 2 companies I'm aware of. The companies have partitioned the land and given to people I'm aware of. So they are claimed that they are not in possession. Probably would only interpret that to mean they are not in physical occupation of the land, but they have legal title.
Okay, Mr. Fuseini, I'm not cutting you. Would you agree when a question is posed to you that the idea of entertaining their plea to grant them portions of the land on compassionate grounds, even though the colonial government had paid them, as you are indicating, led to all these kind of confusions?
No, but I'm being told that the recent attempt to give them an additional 245 acres of land is not on compassionate grounds. So it means that the precedent that we have set has not been followed. I've been told. So I've been told that it is in lieu of payment of compensation.
Okay, let me bring in your colleague.
Yes.
Indeed, I have a lot of issues with the presentation so far made. Grounds on which the purported grant was made, compassionate grounds. Is it sustainable? Is it the case that we are setting a precedent that other pre-acquisition owners must follow? Can the state of Ghana sustain that? Again, the alleged grant to Akim investment, on what legal grounds was that made? Indeed, as I speak now, I haven't seen any law that seeks to convert part of the land into other use, because as we speak now, it still remains public land. And we know the character of public land and who has authority over the use of public lands, and whether or not anybody vested with a piece of land has capacity as of right to divest any part thereof without resort to the law that gives him authority and capacity. Number 2, whether or not it is lawful, having been acquired under an existing law and having come out with a constitution that also recognizes that acquisition, for us to come by way of a subsidiary legislation to purport to divest part thereof covered under the Constitution of Ghana and treated as public land. So the legalities involved, that's what I want to question. But I don't
mention the EIs of your questioning.
Yes. The purported, I don't even know whether there was an EI to support that purported grant to the Owu family in the first place. I haven't seen anything like that. And this EI to affect land use is what is an issue right now. And I'm saying, is it possible, lawful, for us to do that in the existence of the Constitution that has captured that particular parcel of land as public land? And you see, so all these things are debatable. But again, going to the crux of it, the compassion on which the land was granted, and I haven't seen any piece of legislation that speaks to your action based on compassion as a public officer.
Mr. Fuseini can respond to that.
Mr. Appiah Kubi Honorable is a lawyer. And he knows that when he is in court, he uses the plea of compassion. I don't know whether the rules of court have indicated that you can plead on compassion. No, I'm not asking for an answer. 2, he started on a premise which is total.
Why do you say so?
The natural resources of this country have been placed under institutional arrangements. Forest reserves are under the Forestry Commission. Public and vested lands are under the Lands Commission. Minerals are being held by the President in trust for the people. Those who manage the exploitation and utilization of the minerals are the Minerals Commission. These are constitutional institutions or bodies set up to do that. Now, I agree with him on one score, that when you issue an EI and de-gazette a forest reserve, that de-gazette makes that reserve, that area that you have de-gazetted, public lands. And the administration of the public does not reside in the minister, it resides in the Lands Commission. So you can't constitute the minister into a management authority over the divested land. You see, that to that extent, I agree with him. But you see, when you have a forest reserve and you decide that you want to grant part of the
Minister, can you give me 1 minute to treat that position that all public lands, Constitutional Article 257, are vested in the President on behalf of the people. That is the beginning of the transfer. And therefore, all the institutions that come under the presidency, they are operating upon the authority of the President. So I'm the head of family. I nominate my lawful attorney to take care of this. You will still work to my authority. So I cannot agree with my minister when he says that they are vested in institutions. No, the Constitution says that they are vested in the President to begin with. But the
President has given that to a particular institution.
Yes.
So it means any other institution that is not given the mandate cannot take such a decision.
So, yes. And I'm saying that
I'm not saying that
the box rests with the person that we know, not the person that he creates.
No,
you understand?
No.
So
no. When you do that, you constitute your president into an autocrat, a tyrant.
Oh,
yes,
not exactly.
You see, it's a higher fiduciary, and you know that.
Yes,
it's a higher fiduciary.
Yes,
because
and the fiduciary nature of this
please let me explain. It's a higher fiduciary. Okay, because you need to establish where the buck stops.
That's great, and that's what
because that's a higher fiduciary.
Yes,
but that fiduciary must work with the laws.
Yes.
Okay? So that is why the Constitution will tell you that the Minister of State appointed by the President with delegated authority of the President, because the President, executive authority is vested in the President, Article 58. Okay? So anything that is to do with the act of doing something is with the President.
Good.
Okay, and the president.
Let's proceed.
The president then first gives them delegated authority. Now, so that is why the Constitution further says, whether it is the Lands Commission, whether it is the Minerals Commission, whether it is the Forest Commission, the power of a Minister of State to interfere in the activities of these bodies is only through policy. Only through policy. You cannot do anything otherwise, because you also need to protect the integrity of that commission. Okay, so what I'm just saying simply, yes, the president. If we say the president works, so the president tomorrow gets up and says that Achimota Forest must not exist, and that's it. Or that land being close to American embassy, I want it for myself because I'm the owner of the land.
This is where I'm going. I'm not challenging the position again, but what I'm saying is that whoever is in authority is an authority of trust for the people of Ghana.
Yes.
And therefore you cannot, out of your own, in your whims, just...
So basically you're speaking the same language.
Yes. So then I'm trying to challenge the use of compassion to grant.
So you mean the president has no... I mean, no. They could not have been... They could not have been prerogative of mercy. They could not not having prerogatives of mercy because
but he's asking a very important question. What sort of precedents?
The precedent. You know that even in court, even outside court, even in your family, compassion to your children is on the case-by-case basis.
And you think in this case it's
you don't set a precedent, it's on case-by-case basis. I mean, compassion...
That would be discriminatory. Because at one point you have compassion on me, the next point you don't have compassion.
Then if you argue that way, then all the courts are discriminatory.
No.
Then if you argue that way, you can ask, why will the president release this number of prisoners on the basis of compassion at the end of the year? Release all other prisoners.
That's a different.
No, so you don't take it that. If you take it on that tangent, you will run into serious problems.
That's a different matter.
Compassion.
My argument is situated on the case of Nita Techuru versus Attorney General. You know what happened in that case? In fact, the similar appeals from the law people came to the presidency. They went to court, and the court gave a judgment. And in the judgment, there were reasoning by the various judges. And indeed, I have read thoroughly that case, and I seem to appreciate the reasoning of his Justice Atuguba in that case. But if that is supposed to be the yardstick, why treat people like this and treat people differently?
No, very important.
The same compassion.
No. Probably we're not understanding the yardstick of compassion. Compassion is like the chancellor's foot, and so. If you understand the yardstick that you use for the basis of compassion, the yardstick that two people will be charged with murder but given different sentences because there are mitigating circumstances.
Manslaughter.
No, there are mitigating circumstances. That is why when we were in Parliament, we gave the judges a latitude for the imposition of sentences because the cases, every case must be looked on a case-by-case basis. There's no straitjacket formula. Now, we have said, and it's a policy, we have said that the only way we could release land, because we were convinced that the compensation was paid.
And it was adequate at the time.
Adequacy of compensation is relative. Adequacy is relative.
But you mentioned...
Even a peppercorn, and you know your contract, a peppercorn.
But his question is also relevant.
No, what I'm saying is that we don't talk of adequacy.
Well, you started...
No, I'm not. I'm just talking about the whole principle.
Yes.
And you know adequate has been defined to even mean a peppercorn. If you give a peppercorn for valuable consideration, and that person accepts it, it's adequate.
So we can confirm that...
I'm not saying that. If you are important in that...
Do you think the compensation was adequate?
I'm saying that I was not there in 1921. I was not there in 1927, but I know that in 1921, 1927, £4,000 was a hell lot of money.
So it was adequate.
That is your... Don't put value judgment.
No.
You say, no. We're not talking about you are letting me... No. You are putting value judgment on a time frame of money that you and I have no capacity to determine. You have no capacity to determine that. You can't determine why we are here. The value of £4,000 then now, or you can.
We can.
How? Tell me now here.
Present values of money. There is a formula to.
No, now here.
No. I'm not saying.
Yes, you can. So let's not go about. You are not talking about
now,
this.
On top of our head, we cannot. But we cannot calculate.
So, and we are here on a panel. Nobody can tell me that £4,000 at that time was not considered by the authorities as adequate for.
That is all that I want you to confirm.
But today, if you use today's formula, you might get it wrong. I'm just saying that the evidence that came before me as Minister for Lands and Natural Resources indicated that some money had been paid. In fact, subsequently, I've heard the old family say that, the £4,000 was only for the 1921 acquisition and not 1927 acquisition. That evidence was not available to me. The evidence available to me clearly showed that compensation was paid for the acquisition of the land.
The
total acquisition of the land.
Good.
Now, so what I'm saying, and he said something about, you have made me forget about.
No, then I'll come back to you. In the justification given by the sector minister, he indicated that there is no record. Contrary to
just a minute. Need Tetechuru, the locus classicus, in the rationale of the case, it's just that claim for compensation or claim to of first refusal does not extend beyond 7th January 1992. That's the locus, that's the rationale of that case. That if anybody is putting in a claim as being the original owners of the land, that claim cannot be backed on the Constitution, because the Constitution's effect is 7th January 1992.
And
so 7th January,
and based on that, based on this circumstances that you are cited, people are using it to say then even there was no basis in the first place admitting the plea of the people.
No, that's why you are not giving it on the basis of compensation. That's why. You got it. That's why you are not saying that it's compensation. Because if you say it's compensation, what compensation are you talking about? What compensation are you talking about? See, so clearly, you had to find a way to deal with the people, meet them halfway, and that, like I've said, it's just the sacrifice. And now I'm aware, as former minister, that President Kufuor even went out of his way to set up a committee to assess all public lands that have been acquired, for which compensation had not been paid, and to see how much the government could pay. The government should enter into an arrangement where part of the land was used in satisfaction.
Is that to suggest that you inherited this, as the sector minister is now saying they inherited the whole thing from your administration?
Well, I'm just reciting you historical facts.
It was not his decision. He has inherited.
For historical facts, whether we inherited a MOU of 193, but we didn't implement it. Okay, MPP inherited, and that is why I'm speaking on this matter. If the minister has simply said that we have decided as a government to give the Owu family an additional 243 acres or 45 acres, I will ask him on what basis, and that's all. But that's the decision of the government. But they said, and that's why I'm talking. But they said that they will do continuing what NDC did, and I said this is not a continuation of what NDC did. That's the point of difference. But I mean, you are government. You are government. So if you decide we are going to do ecotourism park, and my good brother and friend and the Appiah Kubi says he doesn't even see the basis for the entry into the agreement with the Akim capital for the development of the Forestry Commission. You didn't grant Akim land. No, there was no land involved. There was a project. That project still remained the project of the Forestry Commission. And we brought in somebody, Forestry Commission brought in somebody to help in the realization of the project. So that person was going to invest 1.2 and was going to have equity in the income, in the income that was going to be generated by the project. He was not going to have land.
Nothing to do with land.
Land.
Okay, so
it is good that he's come with this explanation. That they didn't attempt to divest any part of the land to that investment company, but to go into a project in itself. So my concern has always been divesting of public land. So in the case of the investment company, if our president continues what NDC did, it is not to do with the land per se, but to do with a project that had been designed before we came into office. Fine. And this is in the spirit of the Constitution to continue the projects initiated by previous government, which is fine. What my beef is how do we divest public lands vested in the president through and managed through institutions established by law. And what I'm saying is that I'm trying to challenge the basis of that purported grant. And I'm saying it is not sustainable because the acquisition is not only in respect of Owu lands, it's also in respect of other lands across the country. And how do we treat those people also? If there's a general policy that government must look at all acquired lands and seek to divest part thereof to pre-acquisition owners, that is a policy, and that is not discriminatory. But why do you treat Appiah Kubi differently and I treat you differently?
So that was our policy. I like that argument. That was our policy. So when we again went to La Wireless. La Wireless. Medina.
La Wireless is the same as the Nitatechu.
No, we didn't go to La Wireless. We didn't go there at all. La Wireless is the handiwork of EPP from Kufo to Akufado. We didn't go there.
We are talking the legal aspect of those cases.
We didn't go there at all.
But you are trying to confuse us with wireless and Nitatechu. Nitatechu is wireless.
No.
Yes, so the Medina one.
But that is wireless.
Medina one, no,
it's wireless. It's civil aviation.
The Medina one is civil aviation. I was in the case.
Yes, the civil aviation, and the civil aviation had their wireless there. They used to perform the same functions.
No, for aviation.
No, for aviation.
Yes.
The same functions. This one communicated to the aircraft where it was coming.
That's right.
And this one communicated to the aircraft where it was leaving. It's the same function.
Well.
Now, so when we wanted to do that, again, because of policy, we identified the original pre-acquisition owners and met them on compassionate grounds.
Let me bring in this question. We need to move forward.
One thing that probably council doesn't know is that I was a lawyer in the Medina case, the aviation case.
In the Medina aviation?
Yes.
Yes.
We were in court.
Yes.
Well, anyway, we opted out of court for settlement.
Yes.
And I was the lawyer I was the lawyer.
They came to our office.
I came to your office.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't want to go into the discussions in that office. But I happened not to lead my clients personal to my visit to the office. There are
some of
the information from there, if we equate it to the information here, we can start.
Okay, if you look at the basis for this whole grant, according to the minister on Tuesday, they are citing the right of reacquisition if the intended purpose is not being put to effect. For example, the land at Achimota was intended for...
You see?
No, I'm coming just a minute. Was intended for a specific purpose, and they are arguing that it has not been achieved totally. Part of the land has not been developed in that regard. So they want to exercise their right of reacquisition. And I want to know if the exercising the right of reacquisition is automatic.
No, it cannot be automatic. But again, it is not the purpose has not been achieved. It is failure of purpose. And again, if you go to Tetechuru, it was also one of claim by the La people, because they were saying that it was intended for a purpose that has failed. And the decision of the court was that if having the purpose having failed, a particular purpose, and if the new purpose is still for public interest, council, it is still for public interest, then it is the claim is not sustainable on the grounds of failure of purpose. You understand? That is the decision of the court.
Even in the wireless case,
yes,
this was even cited.
Yes, and this was the decision of the court that although it was acquired for the purpose of the communication, and that purpose is no more in use, we are converting that place into a residential for... there was supposed to be an AU conference, and the AU visitors were supposed to converge there, and therefore that was also for public use. So then we come to Achimota, and Achimota says that we are saying that people are making a claim that the use for which it was acquired, as Minister is saying, was for the purpose of growing trees for firewood.
For firewood.
Well, public interest, but has been defeated, and therefore now give us back the land. Can we say that the intended use now of eco-tourism is also not public interest?
The health benefits?
Yes, the health benefits thereof and all that. Are they also not public interest? So why will this claim qualify and that claim of the last not qualify? That's my question.
Your government has to answer this
we are not talking government. We are talking law. Of course. No, I'm not here talking politics. The issues being raised are all legal issues. And I want to say just legal. Because when I'm discussing matters in the law, I don't wear political cap to dilute it.
Okay,
so I say it as it is, without reference to any particular regime.
So talking just before you come in, talking of public interest and the fact that it still has a lot of benefit it is serving us, why has the government failed or abandoned the projects that the NDC started in that place? From the submission of Minister, government has not abandoned. Government is continuing the project initiated by the previous $1.2 billion project that has clearly been abandoned. Yes, but again, it is not the project has been abandoned, but probably the consultant has been changed or something. But the project continues. From what I know and from what Minister has said, we have inherited a project commissioned by the previous government, which is commendable. Now the confusion is coming from the attempt to change the land use, and this is in respect of the old family's request, and not in respect of the project ecotourism. You see, old family says that having been made this grant, it is still, the character is still public land and forestry land. We don't want to go into forestry, and therefore change the land use for us to be able to go into maybe residential and the others. And that is the confusion on the table. So the issue is it feasible to change the land use into that which a old family requests, or keep it under the original land use in the project? Okay, Honorable, let me read this. 2 days ago said, and I quote, "The ICANN capital proposal is not something that I have been persuaded yet, so we are not moving forward with it, because what they are asking for is an ecotourism park, which will be like a theme park, and for me personally, I'm yet to be convinced. It has the potential of compromising the flora and of the forest. You need to cut trees to build these rails, kids' playgrounds, and all that. That's not what I'm looking at." Yes. He has not said that we have abandoned it. He said, "I have not been convinced." There are two different positions. And when he says that, you need to provide a convincing argument to let him move into that direction. Again, he is talking about compromising the fauna of the place. And let the consultants come again and say that, look, that will not compromise it, because this and this and that is what we will do. And that will still be in the shape and form of the forest. So I think he's still thinking about what should be done to make the project consistent with the expectations of the original government that created it. He's not abandoning it. And again, he may be looking at alternatives to see whether there will be another proposal within the same project that will give us also the forest cover and also the environmental advantages. So he has not just said, "I'm abandoning," but he said, "Convince me more, or let somebody convince me that we can have the project done and still maintain our interest in the ecology as per your new design." In the last few days, we've heard in fact, Mr. Inusah has reiterated here that government had paid in excess of 4,000, the colonial government, in 1921. Yeah, it's still government. Government, yes. And Mr. Jinapo said there is no evidence to that. I have not heard him say that. I have heard him say there is no evidence to that. To the payment. Yes, in an interview with Evans Mensah on George. Interestingly, my friend had been on the chair before, and he has given us the rendition as he knows it. And he has confirmed that he has seen, and he commissioned a committee, and the committee report suggests that it had been paid. And on this table, he said that there is evidence to that payment. Unless the minister said there's no evidence to that, and that brings in Honorable Fuseini before you come in. But then I would suggest let's let the two ministers, confer and share information. One thing we don't do in Ghana is that when somebody goes out of the office, he is seen as a devil, so you don't engage him. But it's always important to engage your predecessor. So
would suggest here that if the two ministers are talking about two different situations, let them put their heads together and bring us a hybrid situation that can benefit the country.
Let's assume, without admitting that there is an outstanding debt, they were not compensated. Knowing the potential value of the land, for example, can the state not lease to raise funds to compensate them and reserve ownership?
Listen, if compensation has not been paid, if it is established that compensation has not been paid, which I personally cannot say, because I want to believe my minister who sat on the chair and commissioned a committee to look into it, which commission brought him a report, and which report he relied on taking decision going forward. I would not contest that position. So if somebody is saying that compensation has not been paid, and if it's established that, and I believe me, I haven't heard any person from our family saying that we are coming for our compensation. No, I haven't heard that. So I'm not sure compensation is in doubt at all. But if it is, then it is also not the right of the Oru family to come and claim land. Because once the land has been acquired, it extinguishes your interest in the land, but your interest thereof is only in the compensation. So if compensation has not been paid, let all family pursue that compensation within the framework of the law. But you cannot say that because you haven't paid me compensation, I have to come and take your own land.
Yeah, that's it. Immediately land is acquired compulsorily. The allodial interest
is totally extinguished.
And doesn't come back.
So go for your compensation.
And your interest in the land is converted from land to compensation payment. So we don't want to, but let me read. On the 4th of April 2014, I wrote a letter to the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission, Accra, copied to the Executive Secretary Forestry Commission.
I being you, Minister,
yes,
and sitting here.
As minister.
The panel has been turned into a court floor.
Sitting with my friend and former SRC president. Now, I refer to the ownership of Achimota Forest Reserve, which was acquired by the Republic of Ghana as follows. By a certificate of title dated 16th December 2021 and 17th May 16th December 1921 and 17th of May 1927 respectively, the then colonial government compulsorily acquired under the Public Lands Ordinance of 1896 the said land which is Achimota, on which Achimota School is located, from the Owu family. By provisions of Public Lands Ordinance, a compensation of £4,000 was paid to the Owu family for the said acquisition, receipt of which was duly acknowledged by the accredited representative of the family. Subsequently, the subject area described in paragraph 1 above was legally constituted into a forest reserve for the purpose of fuel wood plantation in 1930. In 1930.
So, if this document is there,
by petitions dated 14th of August 2006
Minister,
and 27th.
You can even hold on there because we are trying to establish the possibility of payment of compensation. And from what Minister is reading, it is part of the records of Ghana. We can always assess it.
I think with what I just said, I want to clarify what the minister said. He said there were no receipts indicating, although there were receipts indicating payment of compensation for the 1921 acquisition, there were no records of payment of compensation for the 1927 acquisition. So just as you indicated earlier that there is a claim going around that the 1921 acquisition was compensated for, but the 1927 was not.
Well, so I'm saying that there were two acquisitions. I'm saying that the two acquisitions occurred in 1921 and 1927. It was only in 1930. You see, when you start to make a fictional distinction, it becomes a problem. It was only in 1930 that Achimota Forest was constituted.
Yes.
It was only in 1930.
So when was the compensation paid?
The compensation was paid between 1921 1927. Compensation was paid earlier.
Earlier? Before the 1927 acquisition?
No, not before the what I'm saying is that, so I've given a date, 16th December 1921 and 17th May 1927, where, respectively, where the colonial government acquired under the public ordinance, land ordinance of 1876.
In compensation paid?
And compensation paid.
For, when?
Now, I'm just saying that a compensation of, by the provisions of the Land Ordinance Act, a compensation of 4,000 was paid to the Owu family and duly acknowledged by accredited owners.
When was that act passed? Because I'm trying to situate.
1896. It was part of the Received Acts. It's part of the Received Acts. Those acts that were not passed for Ghana, but were in existence before the colonialists came. And so they received it. It just became an act of to Ghana.
Okay, I think we've had enough of education. Let's settle for some basics as we round up on this issue. Were you surprised when you heard that the 118 you are saying your administration granted the Owu family has now turned into 361?
That was my surprise. That was so let's bring the matter. That was just my surprise, because, and that also confirms that the minister, and you have read it, the minister did not believe in the ecotourism project. Because ecotourism, you need land. If your concern is that...
No, he didn't say he didn't believe in the project. He
said he has not been convinced.
He has not been convinced with the proposal by that.
Yeah, he has not been convinced. So
it's not for close.
So let me use he has not been convinced. But my surprise sprang from the fact that if your concern is that trees will be cut, and if your concern is that the ecological integrity of the forest will be compromised, why will you give more land of the forest
to a different use? That's
so that was my worry, because immediately it's a forest.
But
so you are taking 245 acres more of that forest, and you are worried that if they are going to turn it into an ecological facility, the trees will be cut. But the 447, there are already existing trees on it. Will they build their houses on those trees?
You see, these are two concepts. What to give the family in respect of compensating them for what you call sacrifices, and the integrity.
Which you disagree.
Which I disagree in the first place. And the integrity of the forest, pursuant to the grant of 36 or 360 acres of the land. 361 something.
But in effect, it's just 243 or so. Because
so these are
261.5 takes account of the 118.
So these are two different concepts. We don't have to mix them. The first one of the grant in lieu of compensation for what he calls sacrifices, I disagree in the first place.
No, not in lieu of compensation. We don't want compensation to come in at all. Grant in lieu of compensation. You acknowledge compensation. We are giving you
compassionate grounds.
Compassionate grounds. That I think that is also not sustainable, and I disagree. If there is a policy of compassion to be granted to pre-acquisition ownership of land in Ghana, let the policy so state, so that me too in Agogo, where my land has also been taken in respect of forestry lands, I can also bath in that compassionate policy and also make.
And will this be sustainable?
And if everybody is coming, but if one person cannot do, let us not see that because today, if I manage to become president, then I say Agogo compassion. Give Agogo.
I will urge you to be compassionate.
I believe you are setting a dangerous precedent.
No. Yes. And I can give you many examples. Except that we are talking about
no, Minister. What I'm saying
across the country.
What I'm saying is that
land was returned to people to choose on compassionate grounds.
Minister.
So the discretion doesn't come at all. Even Kumasi.
If land has been given on compassion, what I'm saying is that let's formalize the compassionate grants.
If you come and say, I will follow the policy,
okay.
It doesn't matter.
If that is...
It's a policy. The policy of the John Dramani Mama administration, we said that, look, we are going to continue to use the land. We recognize that these people, because they gave their land so many years ago, land to settle their family members. But we paid them. So if we can give part of the land, just a small part of the land to them to settle.
The same way,
yes.
In my place, Agogo, they've taken our land.
Place Agogo did not come to say that we're not going to use land in Agogo.
No.
And they did not come to say that, well, give us part of the land.
No, but are you not saying that you are using the land in Achimota for ecotourism?
Yes. So
you are still using the land.
Yes.
But still people have.
I said that we are not using the land at Agogo.
And I'm saying that.
And then Agogo so when we start to use Agogo land.
No.
And you are a lawyer. They retain you as a lawyer.
Agogo land.
And the NDC is in power.
Listen.
Put a long letter to us.
You don't need to have NDC in power to do that.
Because you don't believe in compassion.
It is NPP government that is implementing the compassion.
Okay.
So I'm saying that opens the door for us to also come with a claim that
I get the point that you're making.
Yes.
But
isn't because the elements of compassion.
Is it not surprising
you are inviting that your application should be
I'm going to bring because I'm going to talk to my people.
Is it not surprising that the sector minister says they inherited whatever arrangement from Mr. Fuseini's administration, yet Mr. Fuseini says we gave 118 and you are now granting 361 on what basis?
Yeah, but if on compassionate grounds they gave 90, what will prevent somebody using the same compassionate grounds to extend it?
But they have admitted giving on compassionate grounds. Yes. You said you have inherited that
yes,
number.
We have inherited that policy, that program, and that.
So, are you saying you increased it?
I don't have any information to that. But what I'm saying is that when, in principle, it has been accepted that on compassionate grounds you can make a grant, and it is also established that that which was made within the compassion of the past is not adequate to meet the threshold of compassion. Then that
you're admitting that your government increased.
I'm not admitting. I don't have the facts, but I'm saying that granting that some people made a grant out of compassion, and the same people come to you and want to increase it because it is inadequate for them for what they applied for, and you see that in the same realm of compassion. They want to be given more, and you think that out of compassion you can give more. Why not? But I'm not saying that it has been given. But I'm trying to use the same principle to justify any alleged increase in the grant. It doesn't make it wrongful, because once the compassionate ground has been proven to be rightful in the grant, then the presumption is that you can
no one says.
Very finally, one question for you as we wrap up on this subject. Would you admit that political actors have failed in terms of ensuring that we protect our forest ecosystems? First, the NDC granting 118 and the MPP government also appears increasing the number from what you left in office.
Well, it's all a matter of policy. I told you that President Kufuor settled on 193. This was informed by the policy that he was going to turn the place into a second business district. So land was going to be available.
So you see change of policy because now it's ecotourism.
No, there's not even ecotourism. It's just they are using it to justify what they have done.
No, but you
told us wait. I'm Appiah Kubi, honorable, wait. So Kufuor, there was land. So business district 193. And he said, no, we are going to use it as an ecotourism. So we can't have that land available. So we'll give you 118. Now there's a change of policy. There's no ecotourism on the table. That is why MPP is bold enough to increase the grant by 243 acres. There's no ecotourism. So it's the policy. So probably, what is the policy towards Achimota Forest going forward? That's what we should be answering.
Okay.
What's the policy?
If I understand the minister speaking, the minister is saying that this particular proponent of the policy has not convinced me. And therefore, I'm looking at you convincing me why I should endorse it, vis-a-vis probably an alternative proposal. So it is not a deviation from the policy as established by previous government.
Let me tell you why it's a deviation. It's a deviation because it's when you don't believe or you are not convinced of the policy that you can let go of that huge, humongous number of acres. Because that number of acres for the implementation of the thing.
Look, the man says that.
Where will you get land? You need land to do that. No. And you are given 243, and you say you want to do it. There's no way we are going to do it.
If the man wanted to say, I will dismiss this proposal, he would.
And you are left with 2 years to leave office.
And he says that.
How sure are you?
That is your dream.
Cannot be there after 2 years.
The man says that I am not convinced. Are they the same thing? No, they are not. He said, convince me more, and the man gives you even scenarios he expects. And he says that I'm afraid it might compromise the integrity of the forest, he said, Fiona. So convince him.
But leasing the land to the whole family for development will not compromise the integrity of the land.
Leading part of the land. It has always been part. It has not always been whole. In fact, in this President
Kufuor, 1 acre.
President Kufuor has saying 193, and you propose 110. They are all part. 110 of a whole. And if the new proposal, the new proposal is 360. Is it still not part?
Okay, thank you very much. But very because I'm asking you this because you are in government, there have been concern on social media that we are seeing politicians trying to go into these kind of arrangements so that eventually some actors become owners of parcel of lands that have been released in this regard. And in this context, how are we sure that it's not going to happen?
Are you not here that I've stated my position? Sometimes the generalization of beliefs confuse everybody because we are not all the same. And I personally, I have never in my life owned any public land or applied for any public land. And I am here challenging the basis of the first grant even. So if I had a way, I would not even attempt to divest any part of public land on compassion, let alone trigger multitude of applications for the divestment of the public land. So if we start, my fear is that there may be a plethora of applications coming. As you have indicated that you will also be challenged. Of course, but if Kofi is entitled to, why could Kwame not be entitled?
Thank you so much.
So in my position is that what is rightful under the law must be sustained.
Well,
and not compassion.
NDC don't have stone hearts.
Okay, let's go for a quick break. We return with more. Don't go away.
Oh, I don't know.
Good morning. It's a good morning, and we serve you breakfast.
Not just any breakfast.
Sizzling helping.
And there's much more on offer on GTV breakfast.
So what's your pleasure? Samvotrasia at that time of the morning.
You want it served buffet style, complimentary breakfast?
On-site restaurant?
Or room service?
We've got you covered.
From Monday to Friday at 6 a.m.
With a trusted team.
So never skip breakfast.
On GTV breakfast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ted Spear, pastor of the Fundamental Baptist Church International in Kumasi, Ghana. I'd like to welcome you to join us here on GTV every Saturday morning from 6:30 to 7 a.m. Please join us as we discuss the scriptures each and every Saturday morning. God bless you.
All creation rises.
You call me for defense.
Thank you so much for staying with us. It's still weekly press review live on GBC News and on GTV, also streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Of course, we've been looking at the release of some portions of the Achimota Forest Reserve to the pre-acquisition owners, the Owu family, which has dominated conversations in the last week or so. And you've heard the positions of my respected lawyers in the studio. Both of them have been in Parliament. In fact, the Honorable Inusah Fuseini was the minister when the 118 acres of reserve given to the family. We've also heard some opposing argument from, at a point in time I thought we were even in the court of law. But let's move on.
We've turned this place into a Kwafu Hall conference room. Yes, yeah.
Well, one person died while 9 persons were injured following a clash between protesting youth and the police at Nkranza in the Bono East region. It followed the killing of one Albert Akwesi Donko, who the police said was a robbery suspect. The youth subsequently attacked the Nkranza Municipal Police headquarters and freed some suspects. It led to further tension that resulted in the death of the person we indicated, and also we are learning that the Municipal Security Council has recommended the withdrawal of police people in the area for their safety, and that has been done. So as we speak now, the police command there is virtually not in operation. The headquarters has also commenced an investigation into the killing of Albert Donko. The police have given their part of the story, and it's still a developing story. We try to understand some of these things because in the past or in recent times we are seeing some of these incidents where a suspect is arrested, and later you realize the police tells you that in operation as part of whatever was happening, the suspect was shot, and you wonder what the lessons are for the police in terms of going around with suspects like this and resulting in these deaths and agitations and those stuff. You remember the case of the police officer who was a suspect in some of the robbery issues and how it ended. You remember the killing of Zongo 7 and those stuff. Is it becoming a normal in the police service, and how should policymakers try to stop this so that the confidence in the police administration will be engendered? Let me start with you, Honorable Andy, on this one. Quite worrying that not too long ago we had a similar issue where a prime suspect in the issue of the robbery cases. The police explained to us that they were in operation with him, leading them to further arrest some suspect, and he was killed. And we are learning that it is also happening again. Quite worrying development.
Very worrying, very, very worrying, and it makes all of us very worried, because if a suspect is leading the police to go and investigate an issue at the crime scene or a place where the suspects are, and the police witness is killed in the process, and we don't record any incident of sporadic shooting, then we cannot understand why this witness will lose his life just in the course of supporting the police in mobilizing evidence. It's very worrying. And indeed, I think the police administration, they must sit up and investigate thoroughly and come out with, the report that will bring out the germane issues that ended in this killing. It is happening in other places in the last few years. You see, everybody must be concerned with it, and we are not security experts, but we expect that people put in charge of national security, they should come out and investigate and make to culprits. Otherwise, the time is coming where nobody will be interested in even supporting the police in mobilizing evidence, and that would be a very bad situation.
Honorable, as a lawyer, if the disease were to be your client?
Well, there is no compensation for life. So, as a lawyer, if the disease was my client, what relief would be available to me would be to seek compensation for the dead person, but that will not substitute for his life. So a lawyer in such a situation will be very sad and will be very helpless, because you cannot restore the life. A lawyer's duty will be to take your client out of difficulty. And if the client is already dead, what kind of difficulty are you going to take him out? So you are frustrated in seeking what is lawfully terms of the right of your client. So we must go to the bottom of it and see why it is happening and repeating, and who are the culprits. And again, let's delve deeper, find out information behind the scenes, why people suffer such fate, because it cannot be by accident, and it cannot be, the same accident cannot be repeated subsequently, and or in the hands of the police. It is my belief that even if you are being pursued by somebody and you end up in the hands of the police, at least that is temporary salvation. But now going to the police is also becoming problematic. So it probably be better to stay up and fight for your rights rather than submitting yourself to the police for security that may not even exist. So it's a national cry, and it must elicit a national call for inquiry into such happenings. Indeed, our security is carefully. Security is the best and the most important element in human life. If you don't have it, life is not worth living.
Sani, you pick a suspect in the middle of the night, you take him to operation and he dies. It takes you 3 weeks or more to even inform his relative. You kept tossing them until they took kind of steps to even realize that their relative is no more.
Well, first of all, let's all admit that the tragic death of the suspect in this case, or the young man from Ukraza, should not be countenanced by any civilized nation. You and I and all of us pay taxes. Pay the police. Buy their guns for them. We have collectively given them the mandate to protect our property
and us.
Lives. We gave them the mandate. It didn't spring from anybody. We, through the Constitution, we, the people of Ghana, the least they can do is to win our trust and confidence.
And sustain it.
And sustain it. That's why they are police. So there must be an ongoing attempt to improve the civilian-police relationship. What I see from what is happening in Ghana and elsewhere is that when people are given that power, that authority, they abuse it. They use it in a way to demonstrate power. That's not the essence of the authority. That's not the essence. The essence is how can you use that authority, that mandate that has been given to you, to ensure that we have a peaceful and decent society. To ensure that nobody's property is taken away from him without his permission. To ensure that no one needlessly loses his life when pursuing lawful activities for his own benefit. That's why we've given them the power. It's sad to say, it could happen to anybody. It could happen to you, it could happen to your brothers. And it does happen. The overzealousness of the rogues in the police service accounts for this. The rogues in the police service can plant narcotics on the suspect. It's difficult to do that. But they do. They do. Because they want to justify their authority. And it's not only limited in Ghana, or to Ghana. That is what authority, when you give authority to people, that's how they abuse it. Rogue authority, rogue elements in the police can shoot and kill and tag that person they have killed as an armed robber. And you know, Ghanaians recoil when they hear armed robber, and they justify actions of brutality against persons who have been declared armed robbers. Just like people attack women who have gone into menopause and accuse them of all the adversities that are happening to them as witches, and people latch onto them. The police, when they kill unlawfully, they justify that. They say, oh, that was an armed robber. It was in the exchange of fire. The Kumasi case is a case in point, that's not it. It finally turned out that the 7 people who were killed had nothing to do with armed robbery. Not so. And compensation was paid to the families. Did he bring them back?
Can he quit life?
Did he bring the people back?
Were the officers
punished?
Punished?
That's where I'm coming to. It's because we know that there are rogue elements in the police, in the security services. There must be a constant attempt to hold them accountable. If you allow impunity in the police service, in the security service, we are all at risk. It means that a soldier, a police, a custom officer can visit harm or do with impunity. We are a country of law, not a country of men. We have a whole chapter entitled Fundamental Freedoms, Rights and Freedoms of Individuals. On this occasion, let me seize the opportunity to call on the President to take decisive action on the loss of lives, the needless loss of lives that we are experiencing. I recall, and I've said it on several platforms, I recall the President when he was swearing in Sophia Akufo, the then Chief Justice. He said he was intent on bringing in a new civilization that will secure the fundamental liberties and freedoms of the individual. That was a laudable statement. But since then, many people have died. Is it in accord with the declared intent of bringing in a new civilization that secures the fundamental rights and civil liberties of individuals of this country? Are we not living in a culture of silence? Are we not using the state authorities to terrorize journalists, to brutally assault innocent individuals? You recall the student demonstration, the law students demonstration, and what happened just behind you here? You recall? Is that what the new civilization is about? The 8 people who lost their lives during elections. It is the same president who told us that he doesn't want to be a president if even one person loses his life. And we're saying that, oh, Mr. President, 8 people lost their lives. What has he said on that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He's blind guns of power to close his eyes to these impunities that are happening. I think that we need to halt it. It is totally unacceptable anywhere on earth for you to buy a gun, give to somebody to protect you, and that person will use the gun to kill you unlawfully. It's not acceptable.
Honorable, he's making the point suggesting that your government has not shown enough commitment towards addressing some of these issues. And really, if you look at the Zongo 7 case, the recent police officer that lost their lives as a result of such incidents, and the latest one, we are not seeing any punitive actions against officers involved. The only thing that you hear is that police officers have been interdicted, and it ends there.
It is painful the way we are recounting some of these incidents. In fact, it's unfortunate that it is happening. Nobody is happy that we are getting this kind of service from some elements of the police. But what our caution is that we don't put politics into it. There's no way this one can happen.
But this is the politics.
Excuse me.
And when I was in Legon with you, you were the president. If things were not run well on the campus of University of Ghana, who do I complain to?
But in most cases, people...
Who do I complain to? Answer me. Not you. Yeah, when we used to match your heart.
The complaint is different from the accusation.
So I'm complaining.
Yes, I'm complaining. Fine. But the accusation...
I'm not accused, I'm complaining.
Unwarranted.
I'm complaining.
You see, so what I'm saying is that...
Oh, you don't want to be president again?
The nation Ghana is confronted with these challenges, which are very serious. Yeah. And therefore, in situations like that, I try to mobilize collective response the action. And indeed, this is one of such situations that all of us must put our heads together in trying to find solutions, not really try to apportion blame to Mr. A or Mr. B.
Leadership,
but really the government has to
because I'm used to because I know you. Just a minute, because I know you. When a student died at Lagos by the mocks,
yes,
who did we come to?
Yes, you didn't come to me.
Leadership is everything.
We had to take action.
Leadership is everything.
In situations where
there's no situation.
Are you satisfied with how we are responding in addressing some of these issues? Are we taking enough actions?
We may not be taking enough actions, but we also have to be very careful in trying to exact punishment or in trying to point accusing fingers, because there's also a procedure trying to address some of these issues. And indeed, in respect of the police, there's a police council, there's a crime investigation division of the police council, even against their own selves. But again, the people who supervise the police in doing that, they should be called to account. And indeed, we require that we must have prompt responses to our complaints. Nevertheless, we don't have to also circumvent legal procedures in investigations and even exacting of punishment. But I will implore the police administration to do better than they have done so far, because the persistent complaints from the public suggest that their integrity is on the line. Yes, the president is the one whom the buck stops, but again, whatever he is doing, we can make a plea to him that look at that institution again and see whether we can do better than we have done.
Okay.
But not to try to accuse one person or the other, because I'm not sure anybody is interested in getting these things done. And I'm not sure when you hear some of these things. Let's work together and ensure that justice is done.
Let's cross over to Gunei East and speak with our correspondent there. Samuel Ayama has joined us. Samuel, apologies for keeping you on for long. What is the situation like in the city? More than a day after the police administration withdrew personnel over their safety.
Yeah, thank you, Sani. The whole town is still calm in the township as we speak. All the vantage points, you see police personnel and some other police personnel also patrolling the township just to protect lives and property as we speak in the Kranza township. But the youth are saying they are the police officers in the central region are handling the whole issue. But for now, they continue to remain calm and then wait for their leadership, the mind of the Kranza traditional area. They have been speaking the for the port and the MD for the area, Mr. Mantel, and they seem to have one thought, demanded justice for Abdul and then Victor also lost his life in a clash between the youth and last Tuesday. But the residents, they are moving around, attending their normal activities, and there is still not been a disturbances in the past 2 days now in the Grand Township.
Some of them have been conversations about releasing the body of Albert Donko to the family for burial.
Yeah, for now, that has been another aspect of the whole issue, because yesterday, delegation from the police headquarters visited the family of Albert Donko to sympathize with them and then assure them please investigate any issue in the matter and then make sure there is peace in the area. And the family were clear to the delegation that they are not like let's say they don't need sympathy from them or something like that. So what they need from them is justice. And again, before they accept the body of Albert, the burial and making account, we want to know what actually killed Albert, because they believe that Albert was picked in his house when he was asleep around 2 a.m. on the 9th of 22 April. the Granda police station where the mother followed up there and she was told to go back because she was in safe hands. Later on, the morning, and told her that others have been sent to treatment. So others were taken out. The immediate sickness that hearing that number is no more is something that we are not ready to accept. And know exactly what things happen before you accept the body from barrier. And then there's another place in town, again in Granda, that the authorities are saying those who are on admission, as we speak, as of yesterday, we were told out of the 7 who were still at the hospital, they have treated 3, discharged them, that the remaining 4 were there, and then the related from the management of the hospital was that 3 out of the 4 were in critical condition. Some even were supposed to go through surgery this morning, and they are saying when they discharge them, they are going to be arrested. That did not go down well with the leadership of the youth and some of the MP for the area as of yesterday. But today, we are still monitoring to hear what will come out on that issue.
Okay.
Authorities and the youth and people in the area are saying.
Samuel Ayama is regional correspondent. So we'll keep your eye on the development. We'll be coming back in our subsequent programs for more. We go for a break. We return with more. Don't go away.
His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, in 2016 pledged to ensure free senior high school education for every Ghanaian child. Under the leadership of the President, the first year enrollment has grown from 308,000 in 2016 to projected 400,000 this academic year. The transformation agenda
Thank you so much for staying. That is still Weekly Press Review live on GBC News and on GTV, also streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. discussing the tension as in Kranza, which has led to the death of one person and 9 others also injured in the ensuing tension. We'll still stay a while on this issue because we've been joined by Dr. Adam Bona, who is a security analyst, to help us with some analysis of the situation and what can be done to prevent some of these occurrences. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Doc, surprised that's weeks or months after the incident of...
There's so much noise in the background, I cannot hear you.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
I was asking if you're surprised that such an incident will happen when the police officers who led some officers to pick a suspect, they died in such a situation, and we're told some of these things will not happen again. And not long after that, we are seeing the police also parading another suspect into an operation, and it has resulted in his death.
Well, yes, I am not surprised because civilian-police relationship all over the world sometimes turns out to be dangerous. And so I would say that looking at what happened in Nigeria, some of us have continually called for the police to be very professional in dealing with this matter, and also calling for the military not to be involved. And probably for the first time in a situation like this, even though it became very confrontational, the military were not called to come. Because the last time the military were involved, we saw the repercussions. This time around, even though the military were not involved, we've had one person dying, after the attack or during the attack. And so some of us will call for some inspection and saying that investigations must be conducted thoroughly to unearth what actually took place before, during, and probably the aftermath of what ensued in Kuransa. And so I will urge for calm, because at the moment, if some of us are not very careful and we continue to lament, we are going to, instead of seeking to calmness, being probably contributing or pouring petrol into a situation that is still very fluid in the municipality.
Doc, what do you make of, if you listen to the family, their concern, one of their concerns is that even when Albert Donko died, it took the police weeks to inform them that their relative who was in custody
that is not the purpose of your calling. You're supposed to provide the court with verifiable information that will lead to conviction or otherwise. But in most cases, the orientation is that go and cause conviction, and therefore that is what. In fact, in some of these instances, they are not trained properly. They don't know what it is to guarantee the human rights of citizens, and some of them are drunk with power, as my colleague was saying. That once they are clothed in the institution, they demonstrate that power and suppress everybody's interests and opinions. It's the wrongful training that brings out some of these sentiments out. So I believe that it must be a holistic look at how people get into the police service, how they are trained, and how they discharge their duties in the service. Again, training must be continuous also, so that in course of time, people must be retrained, be redirected into the philosophy of the institutions they belong to. Otherwise, sometimes they get stale, sometimes they get carried away, sometimes they get disoriented, sometimes they get disillusioned. And in fact, the remuneration packages and all that, it comes into question. But again, the focus is that they must live to the calling of their institutions and make sure that they protect property and human lives to the best of their abilities. Some of the members of the institutions are also I think the institution must regenerate itself over time and renew its commitment to the ideals of the institutions they belong. Okay. And if we are not finding this, then we must look at institutional reform.
And I'm saying your final bite on this issue.
Well, I think that the situation goes beyond just training, professionalism, improving relations between the civilian and the population. The situation extends to even the police themselves. And you find policemen, just go behind your offices into the police barracks. You find their fridges outside, in a single room. Converted their veranda into kitchen. The anger and frustration probably is carried to work.
Or family members living in one room.
Family members living in one room, rotating for time of sleep. So we need to look generally at what will make the police happy to be able to carry out their duties effectively. Sometimes they carry these things with them into work, and their frustrations make us or make them trigger happy. We also need to look at the mode of recruitment into the security services. I mean, the over-politicization of the security services could be. I said it all word off camera. I mean, the report of the Ayowasu West Wagon Commission is an indictment of the security services. It's an indictment. Because clearly, they said certain people were not supposed to be in the security services because they did not qualify, they did not meet the minimum criteria to actually be in the police service. So these are the difficulties that we're facing, and that will require a new look at the police establishment and the security forces. You see, that's why when the GP was appointed, it gave many people hope. It gave many people hope. And now look at what is happening. It appears that he has not yet gotten his men together and his act together. I'll pray him to continue to do more to get his act together.
We are running out of time. We have less than a minute, but let me try reading a few of your messages, one or two. This one says, Allah will bless the man in the Fugu. He's really a true leader and he's saying the truth. The police are really abusing the law, and that's unfair. I know that's a prayer for you. And this one says, I pray from now the recruitment of the right persons into our security services, i.e. the police, must be made without any bribes. Those persons get on board with mindsets to make back the money they paid before being accepted. We have fine, brilliant, graduated persons, my own son inclusive, with second-class upper and very clever, but wasn't recruited. I think your investigation should begin from the recruitment processes. Thank you. And this one is from Emmanuel from Koforidia, and that's really an issue. The recruitment process, you find a lot of misfits in the system, and that's leading to a lot of issues. We must sanitize the process to ensure that the qualified persons get into that, because really that's the backbone of our security, maintaining law and order in our community, and we seem not to be giving it the needed attention. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. It has been an insightful discussion. This has been Weekly Press Review. Stay with us next week at the same time as we come your way with the major headlines in the course of the week. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., that's Saturday, the program would be repeated. If you missed some part of the show, you can watch again tomorrow 8 a.m. My name is Sani Abdul. We are coming your first news package. Don't go away. We'll be telling you all that has been happening in the country and beyond.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Listen now.